All right. Hello, people. Welcome back. I know it's been, 3 months. So apologies. But I'm back with another story for you today. And I will be back more consistently, I promise. So today we are talking about, yes, another food and bev brand, because you guys know that is where my heart lies. And it also has kind of a special place to me because this is a kombucha brand. And I grew up, I think, drinking kombucha before most people. I was raised in this really weird homeschooled family for a while. And my mom was like kind of a hippie, and she would make kefir and kombucha and all the things. But even though we had a massive family, we couldn't keep up with, because when you make kombucha, you've got to like grow this weird mushroom thing called a SCOBY. That's what makes the kombucha, like the tea into the kombucha. Yeah, we just had so much in our house all the time. Couldn't drink it fast enough. There's a certain part of my childhood where like all of the counters and even like the floors, even like just like lining the house, were just these massive jars of kombucha. And the way that you like keep making more kombucha is I think you just chop the SCOBY in half and then put that half in another one. So if you don't, they keep growing. So my house looked like this mad science experiment, and that, I think I was able to drink kombucha, I think, for like 6 months. And after that, I've just been like so averse to it for the rest of my life. I think I will be. And I happen to have a husband who has gut issues and loves kombucha, and it's so good for him. So I've got to deal with him drinking it literally every day. And the smell, I still can't do it. Ugh. But whatever. It's a cool company story. Dana, Justin, and Vanessa, who started Health Ade Kombucha all the way back in 2012. A little bit before 2012, we kind of have to go back. Dana, while she was getting her PhD in Boston, was always just like this person who loved to cook for her friends. She'd have them over all the time. She was constantly like fermenting weird things in her kitchen, loved bringing people together over food. So after her and her husband graduate from college, they move over to LA. She doesn't really know what she wants to do at this point. Dana starts working for a pharmaceutical company. The way she explains it is that she never really even liked to take a Tylenol. Then starts working for this pharmaceutical company, one of the biggest in the country. She's making good money doing sales there. A few years into being there, the pharmaceutical industry is going through all of these changes, and the morale of her company and of a lot of different pharmaceutical companies are just going down. And so her company actually creates this kind of new position, these roles called change agents. And Dana was actually made one of these change agents. And what they did was they kind of could create their own role essentially, but with the idea that they were trying to boost morale. And so Dana loved this. It was such like an unconventional way about going about work, and she was just meeting with different teams, connecting with people, figuring out what they loved about the company, what they didn't, and how they could improve. She's doing that for a while, loving her job, and then after a while doing that, they make her come back and start doing her normal sales job again. When she comes back and she starts doing it, she's like, oh my God, I'm so uninspired and I hate this. It was during that time that she starts getting this really deep knowing within herself that she has to start her own company in order to feel truly fulfilled, and that is essentially one of her life callings. Even though her partner Justin is a musician around this time in LA, he's doing some part-time kind of like marketing assistant work for this pretty well-off entrepreneur. And so he's getting exposed to this man's entrepreneurship and all the opportunity it affords, while Dana is having her own kind of existential crisis with her current job situation. And they just start, kind of talking more and more about entrepreneurship together. And there's this other friend that Dana made at the pharmaceutical company named Vanessa. Comes Vanessa, Dana, and Justin, who start meeting together weekly to create this entrepreneurship club. It's actually really sweet. At the beginning, they're just getting together with these notebooks and sitting around a table and kind of just shooting out ideas. They're talking through them at length until they figure out if it's something worth exploring and researching more. Even so, the ones that they did find promising that they would go and do more research on, a lot of them ended up not being viable anyway, because it took too much capital to get started. One that they mention is that it's so hard to find parking in LA. So they want to try and come up with an app to help solve that issue. But as anyone knows, to make an app, it's a lot of upfront capital. That's just one of many ideas they explored, and didn't get off the ground. Eventually, Justin kind of brings up the idea about helping to solve men's hair loss. And if they can find a way to kind of even combat it a little bit, there's a huge amount of money in that industry because it's so personal to people. Dana especially is really keen to find kind of like a natural solution. They're all doing a lot of research on natural remedies to combat hair loss. One of them that keeps popping up is the SCOBY of a kombucha. Remember I explained at the beginning that the SCOBY is that fungus that changes the tea into kombucha. That actually, if you put it on your head, can help combat hair loss. They decide to take that idea and run with it because Dana already knew how to make kombucha. So she was like, oh, well, I already know how to do it, so I'll just take the SCOBYs and we'll kind of use the SCOBY, mix it with other like really nice ingredients, and they're not gonna sell these SCOBYs, they're gonna make like these masks. And that is their business idea. They do all the research and they really think that this is a strong idea. So much so that I think Vanessa has a friend who works at the farmer's market. She gets a call one day and her friend is like, this one vendor dropped out. This is January of 2012, by the way. We have this open table at the farmer's market starting in March. Would you be interested in selling your hair loss masks there? And obviously they like jump at this opportunity. They're like, of course, doesn't matter that it's like 2.5 months away. We got it. We will do this. Thank you so much. They're just trying to get all of their production sorted, trying to figure out how to even make these masks. Like they don't even have a finished product yet. Meanwhile, they need loads of SCOBYs to test these products with, so they have all of this kombucha around. The way Dana explains it is that every time she sees friends or she's going anywhere, she's just handing out kombucha en masse because she just has too much. It's after a few weeks of testing these masks, they realize they do not have a good product. Formulating the masks was a lot more challenging than they expected. On top of that, the SCOBY wasn't really mixing with the other ingredients, which makes a lot of sense actually. And then on top of that, the SCOBY like smells really bad. So in order to have kind of this nice soothing hair mask, having a SCOBY involved, it's not quite doable. So they're scrambling, right? This market is coming up, it's around the corner, and they kind of all look to the stash of kombucha that they have, and immediately they just think, okay, we're selling kombucha now. You would think that then their minds would turn to like, this is the business that we're gonna pursue. That was not it at all. They saw the market as this opportunity to sell kombucha because they knew they had a good product. When they would give it to their friends, they loved it. And they were going to make some money selling kombucha at a market while they found their big business idea. So naturally also at this time, they're trying to source bottles and labels and make like a cute company name. They come up with Health Ade actually like on the first day they decide to sell the kombucha, but there's a lot of planning to do. And on top of that, Dana is really good with marketing kind of naturally even back then, and so she's super keen to have a really well put together booth, have this whole apothecary theme going on, so they make it really seamless even from the beginning. Now the funny thing is they actually sell out their very first day at the market within a few hours. They said I think they sold out by 11 a.m. the market went till 2. So then they start brewing more and they're brewing more and they just keep selling so much kombucha. By like June, they had a 50% of returning customer rate and they were making $1,500 a day a lot of the time. So many people coming back for more, but then also in addition to that, so many new people who had no idea what kombucha was, and the way they would explain it to people was kind of, oh, it's a probiotic tea, because having worked in the food business, you've got like 0.5 seconds to hook someone, and if you say kombucha and they're like, what the hell is that? They're gonna keep walking. So you've got to give them some language that they can understand, and then later they'll learn that the name of that probiotic tea is kombucha. And things just keep getting crazier and crazier. They're brewing all of the kombucha in their closets, assembling in their kitchen. Remember, they start in March of 2012. By June of 2012, they realize this is their business. They're making so much money. There's so much traction. It's like July, they're in 7 different markets. It's them 3, and then they hired another guy to work one other day. And yeah, so they're just selling at these farmers markets. Also during this time, people start going up to them and they're like, I love it. I want a whole case, but I'm at a farmer's market right now and I'm not about to carry it around all day. Can you deliver a case to my home after the market. So many people started asking, so they would kind of finish up the fair at like 2 or 3 p.m. and they'd do home deliveries for the rest of the day. And then slowly, small markets throughout the LA area would hear about them. They would say, can you start delivering to my grocery store a few cases? And they started doing that, although that was like a little iffy because there's so many regulations that go into creating a packaged food product. And so I think they said that they didn't have nutritional labels. They didn't have like a health inspected place that they were making these because they were making it from their home, which is a big no-no when you start selling to a lot of stores. They need to know where you produce, all of that boring stuff. By 2013, they are all able to quit their jobs. It's a scary leap. They don't want to, but they save up a few months of rent and they are all in this. Of course, they're also outgrowing their home naturally. And the great thing about kind of being an early stage business owner is finding other people who really believe in your mission early on. So they meet this woman who owns a bake shop over in Manhattan Beach, and she's closed on Sundays and Mondays to give herself a break. They come up with this agreement with her where if they man the shop on Sunday and Monday, they can have free production space in her kitchen. They're getting essentially like a free production facility just, by bartering 2 days of their week. As you can imagine, they are just growing so quickly, coming out of this woman's bake shop, and they've actually got to start raising their first amount of money. They have $60,000 that they get as a friends and family kind of loan from those close to them, and that's kind of the first money that they bring into the business. They also had a really amazing thing happen, kind of just synergistically. When they all quit their jobs, they wrote a bunch of responsibilities that they had to divvy out between them, and it just so naturally happened that Vanessa was very much of like the sales one, Dana took on all the marketing, and Justin was more of the ops side of the business. And at this time, they're doing all the grassroots stuff you have to do early on, hitting up stores, delivering all the products themselves. For an entire year, they delivered all of the product themselves around LA, just in this big white van. Not even like a reefer van, just one with like a bunch of coolers in it. But that is not sustainable at all. And think about it, they're growing this massive cult following. It's 2013 at this time. Kombucha's kind of in its early days. They get this deal with Erewhon, which, if you know Erewhon, it's like this insane luxury market in LA, and they're finding their people, is what I'm saying. They still really have no employees. They have some independent sales reps who are working based on just commission alone, and they have a few people that they've hired to help with the brewing process. They also talk about capital early on being really tough because, that 60 grand ran out pretty quickly, and they are growing really fast, but in order to grow fast, you actually have to have a lot of money because a lot of vendors or other people can pay you kind of on net 60 or even sometimes net 90 terms, which means you don't get that payment for 60 or 90 days. Meanwhile, you've got to produce more. So you kind of always have to be one step ahead. No banks were really giving them any loans because they hadn't reached profitability yet. So they really didn't have much to show. They start kind of compiling research on, starting a funding round. This is in 2014, and they actually get a cold call from this guy who is representing First Beverage, this firm that invests in food and beverage companies. He says that First Beverage wants to put in the initial investment into their business. So they take First Beverage and they take another kind of friends and family round, put it into one round, and that's $2 million, which is their Series A. And now, everything's just starting to move like very fast. They're moving into another facility even after that. There's so many markets around LA, Gelson's, Lassen's, all the ones you can think of are bringing them on, and so they're booming in the LA area, growing across the country. With this $2 million, they're able to hire some really key hires, which is so important for growing. It's a little bit of a weird transition because now they've gone from like working the three of them with a few very part-time employees to essentially now being full-time CEOs and running a full-fledged business. So $2 million sounds like a lot of money, but when you're in high growth mode, that money, gets sucked out quite quickly, and between changing facilities and hiring all the people, they've got to start raising another round only a year later. The next 5 years, they're just growing and growing and growing, and we've seen them kind of conquer the US. It's pretty much just them and GTs that serve most people their kombucha, and we've seen this really beautiful growth of the kombucha industry. It's such a healthy alternative to people buying soda. Fifth round in 2021 was actually getting acquired by First Beverage, that company that gave them their initial $2 million. So it's very full circle. It's so beautiful. This acquisition, all three of them are able to cash out and step away from the business as much as they want. They have fully built their company at this point. As of 2022, Health Ade was doing $150 million annually. So let's just think back to this brand started at a farmer's market. At a farmer's market where they were brewing kombucha out of a closet. And it's also so cool because they didn't even set out to start a kombucha business. I think oftentimes we think certain entrepreneurs they came to that idea because they were just so much more elevated than us, or the idea came to them in a dream and it's just something that isn't possible for us. But sometimes all it takes is to sit down and just force yourself to generate ideas and decide to take one of those ideas and run with it, and keep working at it ceaselessly and not take no for an answer. Justin and Dana are still married to this day, so the business did not break them. They have a beautiful family now. So how did they do so well for themselves and scale so rapidly? I would say one thing is that they were all just so committed to that mission. Basically, it was like this core team that really complemented each other and also made it their life mission to make this business succeed. There were no taking no's for Nancy. And on top of that, think about Dana. She's got amazing community building experience. Think back to her at the pharmaceutical business, being one of those change agents. And she took that same energy to the farmer's market, making sure every single person there was sampling the product. That kind of attitude also creates a really great work culture, which one of the biggest things to a business's success is keeping morale up, keeping your employees not only engaged but focused on the mission as well, because if they don't have equity, sometimes it's hard to keep people really aligned with your mission as an owner. But if you keep morale up and you have a really amazing company culture, they have no choice but to be invested. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I am so happy to be back. I love telling these stories. I hope you guys love hearing them. I haven't posted lately, but my views are on the up and up in the last month. I do have a TikTok, so follow my TikTok. I talk about business stuff, freelance, my life. I will leave that below. I also have a personal Instagram, but I don't really post anything there. We'll see you in the next video. You can hear my husband shaking his head in the next room. I'll see you in the next video. Yeah, well, I was wrong, but I'm gonna cut that out because I was trying to remember the date and then.
Yeah, so it's just whatever you say, just it is.
Yeah. So don't stand there.
Somewhere.